Look straight up at the ceiling. Imagine the glaring, humming fluorescent lights of a hospital hallway passing rapidly over your head. You are lying flat on a thin, stiff mattress. The air is freezing. You are in severe physical pain. Maybe your chest feels tight, or your heart is beating in a terrifying, erratic rhythm. The alarms on the monitors around you will not stop beeping. You are exhausted. Your blood pressure is swinging wildly, and it takes every ounce of your energy just to breathe. Suddenly, the gurney stops. A clipboard is shoved into your line of sight, or a digital tablet is handed to you by a rushing intake coordinator who urgently needs the hallway cleared. A voice tells you to sign at the bottom so they can finally get you up to a quiet room. In this exact moment, you do not have the physical strength to argue. You do not have the mental clarity to read the fine print. You just want the pain to stop. You just want to feel safe. And that biological vulnerability is exactly when the hospital trap snaps shut. My name is Dr. William. Welcome to Senior Health Sessions. Today we are looking directly at the biological and systemic reality of being admitted to a medical facility when you are over the age of 60. We are going to break down the 5 most dangerous traps that older adults fall into during a hospital stay. But we are not just going to talk about the bureaucratic loopholes. We are going to look closely at the science of your body. We are going to uncover exactly why these hospital policies are so physically devastating to a senior metabolism. And I am going to give you the precise clinical actions you and your family must take to protect your health, your recovery, and your life savings. Let me ask you a question right at the start, and I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Have you ever been inside a hospital, either as a patient or sitting next to an ailing loved one, and felt completely invisible? Like you were just a number on a chart being rushed through a factory assembly line? Tell me about that moment. Your story might validate exactly what someone else watching this is feeling right now. The pattern I want you to understand is not that hospitals are inherently evil or that doctors want to harm you. The reality is much more complicated. The modern hospital system is an incredible marvel of emergency triage, but it is entirely engineered for fast-paced efficiency, and it is biologically calibrated for a 30-year-old's metabolism. When a younger body is subjected to the rigid protocols of a hospital, it can bounce back. But for a body that is 65, 70, or 80 years old, this routine efficiency acts as a massive biological shock. Your body thrives on homeostasis, a deeply protected internal state of balance. Your sleep cycles, your carefully timed medications, and your daily movements are what keep your biology stable. The moment you are admitted, that homeostasis is violently interrupted. Your circadian rhythm is shattered by midnight blood draws. Your cognitive load maxes out from alarm fatigue and strangers entering your room. You enter a state of physiological panic, and it is under this exact blanket of stress that the first major danger occurs. Let us look at danger number 1, the routine medication swap. When you are admitted, you might assume the hospital will simply continue giving you the daily medications you already take at home. You have likely spent months, maybe years, working with your primary care doctor to find the exact brand, the exact dosage, and the exact timing for your blood pressure pills, your thyroid medication, or your heart rhythm regulators. Your liver enzymes and your kidneys have adapted beautifully to this specific chemical balance. But hospitals operate on something called a formulary. A formulary is simply the hospital's internal pharmacy list. It is a restricted inventory of approved drugs that they buy in bulk to save money. If your specific, carefully calibrated maintenance medication is not on their internal list, the hospital pharmacy will routinely substitute it. They will swap it for a different generic, a different brand, or a different chemical compound in the same class. And they frequently do this without explicitly warning you, and sometimes without clearly explaining the swap to the attending physician who is juggling 20 other patients. For a younger person, a slight medication tweak might just cause a mild headache, but for an older adult, A sudden substitution is a biological hazard. Your cardiovascular system is incredibly sensitive to these sudden chemical changes. A substituted blood pressure medication can have a slightly different half-life, meaning the way your body breaks down the drug changes. Imagine standing up to use the restroom on your second night in the hospital. Because of that unannounced medication swap, your blood vessels do not constrict fast enough to push blood to your brain. This is called orthostatic hypotension. The room violently spins. You break into a cold sweat. Your knees buckle. That isn't just a side effect. That is a preventable biological crisis caused by a billing spreadsheet. Furthermore, the hospital often charges extreme premium rates for the drug they forced you to switch to. You suffer the biological whiplash, and you pay a premium for the privilege. To protect your biology, you cannot be passive. You must prepare for this before the emergency happens. Write down every single maintenance medication you take. List the exact brand name, the precise milligram dosage, and the specific time of day you take it. Keep this written list in your wallet or on your phone. When you are admitted, you or your advocate must hand this list to the attending doctor and say these words clearly. I require a clinical review before any of my maintenance medications are substituted, and I request my home medications be continued. By forcing a clinical review, you take the decision out of the hands of the automated pharmacy software and force a human doctor to look at your specific biological needs. Has a hospital ever changed a medication you have been taking for years without asking you or your family? Let me know in the comments if you experience side effects from a sudden swap like that. Now, let us move to danger number 2, and this one pivots from what you ingest to how you move. This is the discharge deconditioning trap. Hospitals are under immense financial pressure from insurance companies to clear beds. The metric of success for a hospital administrator is how fast they can safely move a patient out the door. The problem is their definition of safe and your biological definition of safe are often completely different. Imagine a doctor walks into your room on day 3. They look at your chart, they see your infection markers are trending downward, and they cheerfully say, "You are doing well enough to go home today." Because a person in a white coat said it, human psychology takes over. Most seniors will simply nod, let their family pack up their belongings, and leave. Here is the biological catch. While you were lying in that hospital bed for 3 days, your body was undergoing a rapid, aggressive process called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is age-related muscle loss, but in a hospital bed, it goes into absolute overdrive. When an older adult is confined to a bed, they can lose up to 2% of their muscle mass per day. In the hospital bed, propped up on pillows, you felt fine. But the moment you are home, standing on a wet tile floor, gravity demands strength that is no longer there. Your atrophied fast-twitch muscles, the exact fibers responsible for catching you when you stumble, simply misfire. At the same time, your vestibular system, your inner ear balance center, has become sluggish from lying flat. You fall, you fracture a hip, and you end up right back in the emergency room, facing a catastrophic decline in your longevity. Going home prematurely is biologically dangerous. You have the right to push back if your body is telling you that you cannot support your own weight yet. If a doctor suggests discharge and you feel physically unsteady, you must advocate for your mobility. You or your family member must look at the care team and say, "I do not feel physically stable for a safe discharge, and I am requesting an evaluation by physical therapy for a baseline strength test." This simple request shifts the conversation entirely. The doctor can no longer just look at a blood test. They must bring in a physical therapist to prove that your leg muscles and your balance are actually capable of navigating the stairs in your home. This often buys you the extra 24 to 48 hours of supervised movement you desperately need to wake your muscles back up. Have you ever felt pushed out the door of a medical facility before you could barely stand up straight? It is a terrifying feeling of helplessness, and I want you to know you are not alone in experiencing it. We are at the midpoint of our breakdown, and I need you to stay with me because the next three traps combine biological stress with massive financial devastation. Danger number 3 is the phantom specialist. You do everything right. You plan a scheduled procedure. You call your insurance company. You confirm the hospital building is in-network. You confirm your primary surgeon is in-network. You go in, you have the procedure, and you go home to heal. 3 weeks into your delicate biological recovery, you walk to the mailbox. You open an envelope. Inside is a bill for $2,000 from a doctor you do not even recognize. What happened? The hospital building was covered by your insurance. Your surgeon was covered. But the anesthesiologist who administered your drip? Or the radiologist who read your scan in a dark room down the hall? Or the physician assistant who checked on you in recovery? That specific individual was an independent contractor. They were out of network. And because they walked into your room, they billed you directly at their premium rate. Let us look at the biology of what this piece of paper does to you. When you open a massive, unexpected bill during recovery, your brain perceives a severe threat. Your amygdala fires. Your adrenal glands dump a massive spike of cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. This is the classic fight or flight response. When your brain registers that financial panic, it literally steals metabolic resources away from cellular repair. Your body pauses healing the surgical incision on your hip because it thinks it needs to fight a predator. Except the predator isn't a tiger, it's a $2,000 piece of paper. High cortisol directly suppresses your white blood cells. It spikes your blood sugar. It raises your resting heart rate. By stressing you financially, this billing trap is actively delaying your physical wound healing and depressing your immune system. You must establish a boundary before this happens. When you are doing your intake for any planned procedure, or when a new specialist walks into your room, you or your advocate must clearly state, "I only consent to treatment by in-network providers, and I request this preference be noted in my chart." While emergency situations have different federal protections, setting this boundary clearly for planned care or room visits puts the hospital administration on notice. It creates a documented paper trail that you explicitly refused out-of-network ambush tactics, giving you immense leverage if a phantom bill tries to spike your cortisol weeks later. This brings us directly to danger number 4, which happens in the very first 10 minutes of your arrival. The intake signature. When you walk into a hospital, someone is going to hand you a massive stack of digital or physical forms. Privacy forms, consent to treat, and buried inside them, the blanket financial responsibility clause. This clause essentially states that you agree to be personally responsible for any and all charges that your insurance decides not to cover, often at the hospital's massively inflated, unnegotiated rates. Let me be absolutely clear here, and this is a critical medical safety anchor. If you are bleeding, if you are having a heart attack, if you are in a life-threatening crisis, you do not stop to argue about paperwork. You get the life-saving medical care you need immediately. Your physical survival is the only priority. But if you are stable, if you are being admitted for a planned procedure, or if your family member is handling the intake while you are resting, you must understand the psychology of the clipboard. Hospitals know you are anxious. They know you are in pain. You are physically exhausted from sitting in a sterile waiting room chair. They know you will sign almost anything just to get into a bed and see a doctor. When you blindly sign that financial assumption of risk, you are bypassing the negotiated protections of your insurance policy. You are giving them a blank check. Have you ever signed a stack of digital pads at a doctor's office without being given a single second to read what was actually on the screen? We all do it because we are conditioned to comply with authority. The strategy here is not to refuse care. The strategy is to modify your consent. If you are handed a physical form, or if a digital pad has a comment box, you have the right to clarify your signature. You or your advocate can write a simple limiting phrase next to your name. Consenting to clinical care, reserving all network financial rights. This simple act of modifying the signature does not stop your treatment. It tells the billing department that you are not surrendering your right to dispute inflated, out-of-network balance billing. It shows them you are awake, you are aware, and you are not a passive target. And finally, we reach danger number 5. This is the trap that financially ruins more older adults than any other mechanism in the medical system. It revolves around a single, quiet word on your chart: the observation loophole. Imagine you are rushed to the hospital with severe chest pain and fluid in your lungs. You are taken to a room. You are put in a hospital bed. You wear a hospital gown. You eat hospital food. Nurses check your vitals every 4 hours. Specialists come in and out. You stay in that bed for 4 days and 4 nights. You naturally assume you are a patient in the hospital, but biologically, your body has taken a massive hit. After 4 days in bed, your lung capacity is weak, your muscles have severely atrophied, and your stamina is gone. Your doctor says you survived the acute crisis, but you cannot go home safely. You need to go to a skilled nursing facility for 3 weeks of intensive physical rehabilitation to rebuild your strength. You feel relieved. Medicare Part A covers skilled nursing rehabilitation, provided you have had a formal inpatient hospital admission of at least 3 consecutive days. You were there for 4 days. You should be completely fine. You are transferred to the rehab facility. 3 weeks later, you receive a bill for $25,000, out of pocket. You call Medicare in a panic, and they tell you a devastating truth. On paper, the hospital never formally admitted you. Despite sleeping in their bed for 4 nights, a billing coder classified you under observation status. Observation status is technically classified as outpatient care, even though you were inside the building, eating their food, and receiving round-the-clock care. The clock for your 3-day inpatient requirement never even started ticking. The biological tragedy here is profound. When older adults are hit with this observation loophole, many are forced to refuse the skilled nursing rehabilitation because they simply cannot afford the out-of-pocket cost. Instead of receiving 3 hours of guided daily resistance training to rebuild their lung capacity and their vestibular balance, they go home and sit in a living room recliner. And sitting in that recliner, their deconditioning becomes permanent. Without that vital physical therapy, their bodies never fully recover the muscle mass or the cardiovascular endurance they lost. They age years in a matter of weeks, all because of a single billing word. You must take control of this word the moment you are placed in a room. You or your family member must look directly at the attending physician or the floor case manager and ask this exact question: am I formally admitted as an inpatient, or am I currently under observation status? If they tell you that you are under observation status, you do not panic. You calmly state, I am requesting a clinical review for formal inpatient admission based on the medical severity of my condition. By forcing this review while you are still in the bed, you give the clinical team a chance to justify a formal admission. You catch the trap before it springs. We have covered 5 massive biological and systemic dangers, but right now, you might be realizing a terrifying truth. I started this video by asking you to picture yourself on a gurney, in severe pain, under the freezing fluorescent lights. The harsh reality is that when you are in a medical crisis, you are going to be incapacitated. Your cognitive load will be too heavy. Your pain will be too high. You will not be able to remember these phrases. And that is why the final, most important step is the proxy protocol. You cannot fight this system alone. You need a medical bulldog. A medical bulldog is a trusted spouse, an adult child, a sibling, or a close friend who is fiercely protective of you. Tonight, I want you to take a piece of paper. I want you to write down the protective concepts we just talked about. Number 1, do not swap maintenance meds without a clinical review. Number 2, demand a physical therapy evaluation before discharge. Number 3, note the refusal of out-of-network specialists. Number 4, Modify the financial signature. Number 5. Check for observation status immediately. Write these down. This isn't just about handing over a checklist. This is about transferring your authority when your body is too weak to hold it. Hand that paper to your designated medical bulldog. Look them in the eye and tell them, when we walk through those automatic doors, I need you to be my shield. If my body is fighting to survive, I need you to be my voice. I need you to ask these questions when I cannot speak for myself. Who is your designated medical bulldog? Have you had that conversation with them yet? Tell me in the comments. Putting it in writing makes it real. When you prepare your advocate, you remove the anxiety of the unknown. You give your body the space it desperately needs to focus entirely on healing, knowing that your legal and financial boundaries are being fiercely guarded by someone who loves you. Surviving the hospital is only the first phase of the battle. The moment you return home, your body faces a massive biological deficit. You have lost muscle. Your cardiovascular stamina is drained. Your immune system is exhausted. If you do not actively rebuild what the hospital bed took away from you, that deconditioning can become permanent. You have to wake your biology back up. In the video on your screen right now, I break down the exact evidence-based biological steps you must take to reverse age-related muscle loss and rebuild your functional strength after a period of prolonged bed rest. It is the mandatory second half of your recovery journey. Click that video and let's get your body moving again. I'm Dr. William. Thank you for trusting me with your health today at Senior Health Sessions, and I will see you in the next video.